The group are one man down. Gabe is now blind. They've recovered the Jade Serpent, though, from the sunken temple of Yig, and they're about to make their final push on the lighthouse. But will Milton's folly be a folly for the party too? Attack. Hit it. Yeah, back up onto the surface at last, Jade Serpent in hand. Gabe has had to go off because he's now blind. Who's Laurie going to play in the interim? Well, after chatting it over with Laurie, and I gave him a few possibilities, he turned some of those down. So there was one that he accepted because it was a bit different, and that was Costello. That's right. The party were going to go to Costello anyway, and that's the High Cleric of Yig, the guy that's been helping them all along, the person who is pretending to be, using his serpent changing ability thing, pretending to be Thuron, the High Priest of the Temple of God of Knowledge. So that's kind of always been their go-to guy, the guy that's helped them, the Serpent Man on their side. And so they go to Costello, they say, look, this is what's happened, we've recovered the Jade Serpent, what do we do with it? We don't just want to make a push on the lighthouse. I wanted to find out, how stealthy they were going to go about trying to get through the streets. They didn't try and do anything like make themselves known to the guards, which was quite right, because the guards were indeed looking for them. They tried doing some investigation into whether they were wanted or not. And they found out that the proceedings for the lighthouse had been hurried along, moved forward quickly, and that the lighthouse thing was launching tonight. With a load of ships in dock, and there's people all over the streets, everywhere. And, this will help with them blending in, not being seen. So that's a super important point. So yeah, there was no problems with blending in. I just asked them really not to roll low, and those that did roll low, obviously they had the option to use the dragon points, which I've implemented. You get as many as per your level, and they are allowed re-rolls. They don't regenerate unless you roll 666 on any roll. Dragon points. Huzzah! So, there's kind of, sometimes there's a few critical points where they have to have a dice roll get through, or whatever. So that gives them something. Anyway, they made it to Costello, and then Laurie took hold of Costello. So we'll do a separate video probably talking about Costello and how he's built. But I'll say it now from the outlay that he's kind of like, in WoW terms, a priest come warlock. Yeah, but more so warlock. But you imagine a warlock with heals. Okay, so a bit strange. And he can heal others. So everybody's his pet. Yeah. And I really wanted something completely different. And as a result of this, and the egg that they've brought back from the temple, which is starting to become active again, because it is in the vicinity of the Jade Serpent, it means it may well hatch. And that could mean a new serpent person born. And, I might actually look into doing the background for them as a race, as this one-off, for maybe the Serpent Man as a playable character, incarnation of Yig, perhaps, or some sort of blessed one. Who knows? But, the fact that Costello is a Serpent Man being played by Laurie, who's obviously can shapeshift into the human form, that's a pretty big deal right there. And who knows, if he does well, and while Gabe's sort of out of it for now, Costello may stay with the group. if he can survive this, he might decide, well, do you know, I want to travel with these guys. I want to see the world out here. You know, I won't show off my serpent form. Let's do it. Well, anyway, we'll see. But Costello's basically informed them that they need to somehow disrupt the ceremony. They need to interfere with it, with the power of the Jade Serpent over the power of whatever they're using as a conduit. And of course, whatever they're trying to use as a conduit at the lighthouse is eventually trying to cause this. That's right, the sign in the sky that will send people running in madness and just tearing each other up. And basically, the way I'm going to have it is that if they get the ceremony off and it afflicts the people, that what you're seeing there will just be the first stage. The next stage would be the summoned armies of Hester coming through the dimensional opening and possessing all of these people as an army. And then the God of Madness itself would come through. So, I mean, this could all get very sort of, I don't know, Ghostbusters 3. But, yeah. Right. So, they had a choice. Go for the lighthouse in the day. That would be a bad move. I gave them all the information. You know, that there's basically a bit of land that goes out towards the sea, and then, you know, it comes to a rounded end, and the lighthouse is on the end of it, and there are ships going around patrolling full of marines, 4 ships. But they noticed at night time, when they waited cleverly, that the lookouts that normally are on the lighthouse aren't there anymore. And there's lots of people all out and waiting in the night for the proceedings to start, so they can get closer and closer without being spotted. And then when they did go make a push for it, they made sure they killed all their lights. Another clever move which could have upset them. And at this point, I as the GM am taking this into account. Do the guards know they are coming at any point? Do they give the game away? And if they did, there wouldn't have been like a definite feedback that the players would have known. But it is critical, because it's to do with, it's going to become time sensitive. How many minutes the team has spent in actual world time trying to get to the top to stop the ceremony, because they're getting it already as we speak. And if they hear that people are coming, they'll take even more defensive measures. They'll make it harder for the team to get there. They'll get going with the ceremony quicker. You know, they'll know that they're under attack, and they have to hurry things along even more. So they made it to the lighthouse without being seen. All of them stealthed along in the dark beautifully. And making it to the lighthouse, they looked at it, and it's big sort of like square shape, straight walls, and there was doors on each of the compass point directions, walls, and big double doors. Now, the party could just bust through, and they could see that there was like guttering light coming from inside, because above, 20 feet above the doorways, were these really like big arches that go up. So the party had to determine, what were they going to do. They decided, we'll have a peek through the arches first. We won't just open the doors. Good move, because the guards inside were facing a particular direction. Now, I generated which direction they were facing randomly, and they were so lucky that they happened to generate facing directly away from the one they chose to come through. That's the first thing. Sometimes, these things go a party's way. Sometimes luck has a lot to do with it, just like real life. Sometimes you get by because you get a lucky break. You know, it's partly skill, but, you know, fortune favours the bold, perhaps, but there is still fortune involved. You could be bold and lose. Right, so if they'd have opened the door, the guards would have spotted them. One of them would have started running up the stairs, would have got a major head start on them, and he would have potentially been able to alert the whole lighthouse to be on alert. The other guards would have been ready. They could have then warned Drac. So the timer might have started then. And as soon as I know that Drac knows that they are there, in my head I'll start timing it. And the timing procedure I'm thinking of is maybe a count to 100. And like each round, effectively I'll be rolling a d6 and adding that towards a total to 100. And then, like, obviously things that aren't in rounds, I estimate how many rounds. And then if it becomes a really sharp focus that Drac's actually involved, full on, and he's expediently punishing his servants to work faster towards the ultimate gains, I might be rolling 2d6 at a time to try and hit the 100 first. Or when the ceremony is finally complete. So, I mean, that for me, even as the GM, I don't know how fast they're going to work, and that's kind of fun. And so we'll see how that mechanic works out. Sometimes you have to have kind of an idea of how you want to do it, and so that's the rough shape of how I want to do it. But they still haven't been seen at this point, so this is brilliant. So the guys, they peep through the arches, and by the way they get up to the arches is really clever, because Karak, his tome is working great this time, by the way. His tome, the one that he bought for like 40 gold or whatever, his Tome of Shape Earth. It's a spell that at the beginning of every adventure I get him to do an arcane lore check. If he passes the arcane lore check pretty high, like 17 or whatever, then he gets to use that spell for the whole adventure, sort of thing. And so it's not a completely learnt one, it's a tome one. And he's just got another one as well now. He's just got the wind weaving one. He's just bought a tome of that as well for like 40. So, well, there's a nice black market emporium at Freeport. There's a great scene like that going on. So Karak can pick up a lot of different bits and bobs. And to be honest, you know, there is a real lack of spells that mages can have. So I don't mind letting the odd one be available from extra in a tome form. And I normally roll for these randomly. You know, I'd set how many are on the list, and then, you know, do a system and roll a spell up, and that's the book that's available, whatever. And I don't like try and come up with something that the player would want. I don't try and do it in terms like that. Very often, like, loot will appear in a dungeon, you know, goodies, and they won't be suitable for anyone present, and that's just the way it goes. So, yeah. Okay, so he did a Shape Earth spell to make the stone rise up out of the ground and into steps that led all the way up to an arch. Quite brilliant. He's burnt a lot of mana through this, and the group just walked up the stairs all the way up to the arches, and they peeped through, and they saw the 4 guards with crossbows, and there are a whole lot of stone columns supporting the place, square shaped as well. So all of these many stone columns will be able to work as cover. So the idea is the 3 guards would fall back into defensive position, shoot with their crossbows, and one guy would bolt it upstairs. Anyway, Tanador snuck forward and got really close to them. And Delilah snuck forward and got really close to them. Karak stayed just outside and casting distance. And then Ash. Ash is back, everyone. Ashard, the Kunari. And he was away, I guess, because of flu. Let's just say. The character, that is. The player, he was on holiday for 3 weeks. So, you know, character out with flu. And now he's finally well enough to help rejoin the group, and he's appeared at the right time because they're going for the final push. So he clattered about, made too much noise, jumping down from the arch into the inside, alerted the guards. But of course this played to their favour because they put a lot of concentration on Ash, and that meant Tanador and Delilah could pounce from the sides and knock two of them down and start working on them. One guy had started bolting upstairs. Tanador gave chase. He gave chase. And I realised with Tanador's speed, because he's kept his armour lower, and all of these things come into account, and they really should be penalised players for the amount of armour they wear as well, on things like stealth tests, and, swimming tests, and climbing, all of these things that should actually really make it harder in reality. So I definitely feel that you have the obligation on you to really balance up the normal problem of the armour value seemingly being too high if you're just running the numbers. So let it be sort of as a completely rounded experience. They will suffer in lots of other ways, and that will be just fine then. So anyway, he starts bolting up the stairs. It looks like Tanador's going to catch him. Karak, though, gets off a Mind Blast. That's his signature spell these days, isn't it, everybody? Boom! Mind Blast. Boom! The guy flips up into the air and bounces on the stairs and falls down and down and down. And Karak sticks his sword out. He's got a great sword, so it's two-handed. He sticks it out to try and pierce the guy. And he pierces him on it. He pierces him, and it thunders into him and knocks him down the stairs as well. And the guy takes the extra damage from all of that, and he's dead, unconscious, dying, in a really bad state. They finish him off all quickly. They jump, daggers are forward, hands over the mouth, stealth, take down. And Tanador, because his armour absorbed all the damage from the fall of getting cluttered down the few steps that he'd run up. Anyway, together as a team, they also decided, look, what do we do with the guys? Do we hide them in the corner, or do we try and prop them up? If we try and prop them up, we might be able to make them look like they're still on guard duty in case anyone peeps through or down or checks to see if they're still here. Anyway, they decided instead to just leave them all in the corner. It was going to take too long, use too much mana, because evidently it would have been something like a Shape Earth to try and have them all stand up, or whatever. Pitch each one of them up. There would have been a Shape Earth 4 times. Karak doesn't want to have to use his mana to do it. He doesn't want to. So, okay then. They push on. Upstairs, and they get to the top, and there is a evil ceremony going on at an altar. And the altar of the sea god has been changed. It's had the markings of the yellow sign, which is that, carved into it. And human dried blood has run into the channels where it's been horribly carved in, ruining the original design. So, what I will also say about the yellow sign there, the symbol, I was having a discussion with Pete, who's quite a Cthulhu universe type, and he said that the symbol like that wouldn't actually be used as a symbol of summoning per se, but as a protection. And so I thought about that, and I thought, well, they've kind of implied that it's actually a symbol of summoning, that it's a symbol of power, but a symbol of protection against that power. What an interesting angle. So the tower has got a whole load of these symbols all inlaid into the brickwork, very, very faintly there, or just being jaggedly etched in where it hasn't already been faintly laid in. And I started thinking, actually, if Drac and all of his goons are trying to summon something big and nasty, what insurance do they have that it's not going to swallow them and send them mad too? And then it occurred to me, yes, it would be sort of like a sign of summoning in a way, because it could be agitation if used on a large enough scale. But it would be protection from the point of view that The lighthouse itself would be a protected building, and those who inhabit it. So therefore they could send everyone else inside and control the thing from inside the lighthouse. Suddenly it makes sense. Lighthouse becomes, ground zero. It becomes the eye of the storm, the viewing deck. So, okay, I kind of reasoned it out that way. That makes sense. I like that. Anyway, the ceremony's going on, and the group sneak forward, and the guy running the ceremony has his back to them, and everyone else is watching the guy, enwrapped in what he's saying. This evil kind of cultist type stuff. These rogue idiots doing their thing. And the group jumped them. He stabbed them and killed them and grabbed the guy and stabbed him quickly and killed them and just use overwhelming force. We don't want a big long combat drawn out, because in the end of the day it's just numbers versus bloody numbers. There's not really much going on here. Let the group do their stealth attempts to try and do it. Don't let the combat itself be the thing that drags it down or goes against them negatively. These cultists aren't going to be much of a danger to the group. The only danger that should be there for the group is delaying them, right? So maybe if the stealth attempt doesn't work, you could immediately, as the GM, say, right, I'm going to impose this many rolls against that 100 if you were doing it my way, or however many counts, however many ticks towards the final result, towards ceremony complete. Or you might be doing it in minutes, so you might think, well, this is going to waste another 2 minutes off of like the amount of 20 they have, or however many you're giving them. However you want to do it. And it's always got to be loose. It's got to be loose because you're the GM and you're running it your way. You're running it for what's best for you, right? So I can't even tell you what the best way to do it is. All I can do is impart personal wisdom in the way that I do. Again, I really love this guy. Isn't he great? I just love this picture. This one here. Maybe a certain eunuch friend we'd know from Westeros. Seemingly friend to everyone, but friend to no one, spider to everyone. Okay then. So then they checked a couple of the side rooms. They worked out that there was a secret passage that led off. They just couldn't find out how to open the secret passage up. But just to cut it all short, there'd been a woman. She'd been killed with a crossbow bolt. They thought to themselves, oh, has there been some sort of room trap that has set this up? And they're checking for the room trap. They're being all mega cautious. It's wasting time. Which is good. And, then they finally realise, oh, okay, the statues, the weapons on the statues in the two rooms next to the altar room, they pull down. And if you pull them both down, the secret room thing grinds and unlocks. And then the way opens. And then they found it and went in. So they took the secret door on. And it led up these stairs that led up to a trapdoor. And then came all of the plasticine animation jokes of the children's TV series Trapdoor. People started singing it and Burke, where's my dinner? And all of these, just a moment of everybody showing their age suddenly, or the fact that they still like it. Ironically, showing their age in another sense, of course. So they open up the trapdoor. Because there's something up there, in this case, and it's just the smell of just rotting flesh. Oh, yeah. In fact, look, there's a guy opening the trapdoor right there. There's an illustration of poking his little head up. Oh dear, what's that there? Well, I'll tell you what's up there. A gibbering mouther. And the horrible stench that's threatening to overcome them completely is found to be a terrible extraplanar entity that has been summoned by Milton Drack into this realm to be a guardian, defending this area of the lighthouse against any would-be attackers. And there doesn't even appear to be a next way on. There's not even visible steps that go up. How do they even go up? But heck, this level's the problem, because they come up through the trapdoor, and they all came up together, right into the lair of a gibbering mouther. The whole place smells of just rotting, stinking decay. This is a big, amorphous, nasty blob, massive in size, huge, big teeth things that's just clashing and clattering and I mean, just looking at this thing enough to send you completely bonkers. So this is the god of madness's ultimate summoning, and of course this is another thing where I got to really go into the true 20 system, yeah, and mess with, which is what I like to do. I like to mess, dude. Okay, so stats wise, I've just found it here. They've got it down as CR5, medium-sized aberration, HD 4D8 plus 4, HP 25, initiative plus 1, dex, speed 10 feet, AC 19, plus 1 dex, plus 8 natural, attack plus 4 melee, 6 bites, SA gibbering, spittle, improved grab, blood drain, engulf, ground manipulation, SQ amorphous. So and so on and so forth, and they've got a bunch of stats here, skills and feats and things. So you can see, it's going all D&D on me here, and of course this is age, which isn't. So I turned it into an equivalent age type creation, and a lot of the elements weren't there as hard and fast mechanics that I could just give to the public and then be able to roll and run with. I had to play a lot of it by feel as well, because it was quite a complex boss. So all over, it's just got these gnashing mouths in all directions. So, it can. I had it being able to attack like D6 plus 3 times instead, which is just bonkers, yeah? And, even the damage, they're only like 1d6 plus 10 or whatever madness, but still, it's the death by 1,000 cuts. And then I did another thing where I thought, well, he can, once he's generated all his attacks, he can either use all his attacks as is, or he can do half his amount of attacks to make it piercing damage. So there was that thinking. There was the engulf, where I had him be able to swallow people and consume them, and he's healing off of swallowing them and doing damage to them, and they've got to try and escape, and allies can try and help them escape. And so it got really, really bad. The group came really under attack from this thing. And again, I think they started to panic. Karak was getting pretty close to it. But again, this is where a group could really take advantage of some of those unusual stunts to try and turn things to their advantage. Especially given the fact that things were going a bit out of control. It was creating orbs out of itself. Gibbering orbs. Oh, and these things have stalks with eyeballs on as well, all over at 360 degrees. So you can't sneak up on it, you can't backstab it. It sees everything. You're trying to cut eyeballs off, and more are just growing out of it. And as these orbs, the gibbering orbs, were growing out of it, I had these things with almost exactly the same stat line and abilities going off and attacking people as bonus versions of it, except it couldn't do engulf. And basically it shreds an amount of its health off. So let's just say I pick, say, 50 health, 40 health, something like that, right? And I minus that off the boss, and then that goes in as the HP of the orb, and then that's off fighting. So they had to deal with that as well and try and sort of get on top of it before it could keep making more and more and more orbs, and it would pump out another orb every few rounds. It got to the point where they had to deal with 2 orbs simultaneously, and that was pretty bad. And they were really getting worn down from this. And they were saying, "Bloody hell, this is a really hard foe you've put us up against. Could you have made it any harder?" Sort of almost sarcastically. And at that point, I looked back and I said, "Well, consider this, right? Consider this. Are any of you dead yet?" No. Okay? So if this has been this hard, and none of you are dead yet, and they've beaten the encounter without anyone being permanently dead, and they've scraped through it, then how was it too hard? Justifiably, that would mean actually that the party are too powerful at this point, surely, right? Yeah, exactly. So I think what they, certain players might feel that they want to be able to just sweep straight through the thing, and well, it's not always a good idea, because if you just offer them up only the easy stuff, then they will get bored. They'll have no respect for the world. I'm just not willing personally to GM that situation. The world must be dangerous, must be life-threatening, must make you work harder, and the longer the game goes on, the harder the foes will get, and these guys are going to have to step it up. They're going to have to get more tactical to survive this. It's just how it is. So, anyway, these things, really nasty, and almost killed Ash, almost killed Karak, almost killed Delilah. Costello was there under Laurie's control, trying to help, trying to, heal what he could. But even Costello was put down almost dead. Tanador was getting pretty close to it himself. So, it going on like this. But finally, they saw a light at the end. And they were all still standing. After blasting through loads of mana and everything else. So this was the Guardian. But, of course, it's done well because it's held them up. And the more that players might sort of maybe try and de-immerse me, the GM, the more I'll be looking, by saying, oh, could you have made this any harder? The more I'll be looking at maybe penalising the entire group for that by rolling an extra couple of dice towards that timed 100 score, perhaps. Who knows? So that's it. The extraplanar entity is destroyed. The pet of Drac that he summoned, gone. Now the party have to figure out how to carry on up and do the final confrontation, and we'd pretty much run out of time at that point. So they're still stuck in the lighthouse, with the time kind of ticking, but not as fast as it's going to come next encounter, because it's gonna get really crazy. So, join us for the last part, where I can give you all of the insight and thoughts into this. The final push on the lighthouse. Is everyone going to go mad? Who knows? I certainly will at the end of it, even if the players and the people in the world don't. And until next time, I'll see you at the table.